A black man walks into a bank to cash a check, but instead of respect, he faces suspicion. The manager doubts his intentions, questions his identity, and humiliates him in front of others. What the manager doesn't know is that this man isn't just any customer. He's someone whose life journey from hardship to success is beyond imagination. It's a story of dignity, respect, and the rise of a man who refused to bow down to prejudice. What would you do if someone doubted your worth just by looking at you? Have you ever faced a moment where people judged you without knowing your true story? Share your experience in the comments below, because stories like these remind us that appearances can be deceiving, but character never lies. Don't miss more powerful real-life stories like this. Hit that subscribe button on the Rise Against Odds. And don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss when the next inspiring journey drops. It was a bright morning when David Johnson, a successful entrepreneur, walked into the downtown branch of a well-known bank. He was dressed sharply, carrying himself with quiet confidence. In his hand was a check worth millions, a payment from one of his latest business ventures. For David, this was routine. But as soon as he stepped up to the counter, the atmosphere shifted. The bank teller's polite smile faded, replaced by uncertainty. She glanced at the check, then at David, and excused herself to fetch the manager. Moments later, the manager arrived, his eyes narrowing suspiciously. Instead of offering a greeting, he leaned in and asked in a condescending tone, "Are you sure this check is yours?" The words stung, but David remained calm. The lobby grew tense as whispers spread among the waiting customers. The manager continued pressing, asking for extra identification, questioning the authenticity of the signature, and even suggesting the check might be stolen. To David, this wasn't new. He had faced prejudice countless times before, but this was different. Here, in front of strangers, his integrity was being attacked. Still, he didn't raise his voice. He knew something the manager didn't. This confrontation was about to end in the most unexpected way. David handed over his identification, but the manager wasn't satisfied. He scrutinized the documents as though searching for flaws. "This check is unusually large," he remarked, his tone laced with disbelief. David could sense the eyes of the customers around him, some curious, some uncomfortable. It wasn't the amount of the check that bothered the manager. It was the man holding it. He lowered his voice, but not enough to hide the disdain. "People try to pull scams every day. I need to protect this bank." David's jaw tightened, but he stayed composed. Years of fighting uphill battles had taught him the power of patience. Finally, the manager shook his head. "I'm sorry, sir, but I can't authorize this." Gasps rippled through the lobby. David calmly asked, "And what's your reason?" The manager crossed his arms, clearly enjoying the authority he thought he had. "It's just policy," he replied smugly. David took a deep breath. He could have argued, raised his voice, even stormed out, but he had something far more powerful in his favor: the truth. He smiled slightly and said, "If that's the case, maybe I should speak to someone higher than you." The manager chuckled. "Higher than me? Sir, I run this branch." David's eyes gleamed. The stage was set for a revelation that no one in the room could have imagined. The room fell silent as David's calm, yet confident words lingered in the air. The manager raised an eyebrow, smirking, convinced that he had the upper hand. "Higher than me?" he repeated, almost mocking the idea. But David wasn't rattled. He stepped closer, his voice steady and clear. "Yes," he said, "I think I should talk to someone from ownership, someone who actually knows how this bank works." The manager chuckled loudly, glancing at the staff as if to share the joke. "Ownership? Sir, do you even realize what you're asking? This is a major institution, not some corner shop." David nodded slowly, almost amused by the man's arrogance. Then, with deliberate precision, He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a neatly folded set of documents. He laid them on the counter and slid them toward the manager. "You might want to read this," he said calmly. Curious now, the manager unfolded the papers. His smile faded instantly. His eyes scanned the page, then widened in shock. The papers clearly identified David Johnson as the majority shareholder of the very bank in which they stood. The silence in the lobby deepened, broken only by the rustle of paper in the manager's trembling hands. David's voice remained steady. "So you see, I'm not here to scam anyone. In fact, you work for me." The manager's face turned pale, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Customers gasped, some even whispering in disbelief. For the first time, the man who thought he had all the authority found himself speechless. David simply waited, his calm demeanor now radiating unmistakable power. The manager's hands shook as he clutched the papers, reading them again and again, hoping somehow it was a mistake. But there it was in bold letters: David Johnson, majority shareholder and owner. His authority crumbled in an instant. The lobby, once tense with whispers of doubt, now buzzed with disbelief. Customers leaned forward, phones discreetly recording what was quickly turning into an unforgettable scene. One elderly woman smiled proudly, as if she had witnessed justice unfold before her very eyes. David did not gloat. He did not raise his voice or throw insults. Instead, he stood tall, his quiet dignity louder than any words. "Respect," he said softly, locking eyes with the trembling manager, "is something every human being deserves, regardless of the color of their skin or the size of their bank account." The manager swallowed hard, his arrogance replaced with visible shame. He fumbled for words, stuttering an apology. I didn't know," he muttered. David leaned in slightly, his tone calm but firm. "That's the point. You judged without knowing. You doubted without reason. And you disrespected someone who has worked harder than you can imagine to stand here today." The room erupted in quiet applause, customers nodding in agreement. The teller who had first greeted David looked away, clearly embarrassed. David gently retrieved his documents, slipped them back into his briefcase, and then, with unshaken grace, said, "Now, I'll ask one last time. Please process my check." The manager, face flushed with humiliation, quickly obeyed. As the check was finally processed, the entire atmosphere of the bank shifted. The arrogance that had filled the room moments earlier was gone, replaced with respect and even admiration. Customers who had doubted David at first now whispered his name, realizing they had just witnessed something extraordinary. The manager returned with the processed check, his hands still trembling, and placed it on the counter. "Here you go, sir," he said in a voice barely above a whisper. David accepted it with a calm nod, showing neither anger nor triumph, only quiet strength. Before leaving, he turned to the lobby and addressed not just the manager, but everyone present. "Let today be a reminder," he said, his voice steady and powerful, "that respect should never be based on assumptions. Success is not defined by the color of skin, but by perseverance, hard work, and vision. Every person who walks through these doors deserves dignity." His words hung in the air like a timeless lesson. A young man near the back whispered to his friend, "That could be me one day." The elderly woman who had smiled earlier now clapped louder, soon joined by others until the bank filled with applause. The manager, red-faced, lowered his gaze in shame. David picked up his briefcase, thanked the teller politely, and walked toward the exit. As the glass doors closed behind him, the crowd inside remained silent, reflecting on what they had just seen. That day, David did more than cash a check. He cashed in years of resilience, transforming humiliation into a powerful statement. And in doing so, he left behind a legacy, a reminder that true power lies not in wealth alone, but in dignity and grace.